I want to apologize for my pronunciation of a lot of the names and the Spanish words. Compared to other states, New Mexico is long on history and low on people, and it covers a large area. This means that solitude is easy to come by. That's the reason many people love the land of enchantment. But the creepy tales you dismiss by day become a lot more sinister when you're driving down a deserted road at night. While most people think Roswell and aliens, New Mexico offers numerous other creepy legends and myths. Today, we will take a look at 10 of these. This next story from New Mexico involves a creepy ghost demon named La Mala Hora. The name means evil hour or evil one. The legend is also known as La Malora or La Magora, the evildoer. La Mala Hora is an evil spirit that wanders the backcountry roads after midnight, terrorizing those who travel alone. It usually lurks in the darkness at the crossroads, waiting for the unweary traveler to cross its path. When it is first spotted, it appears as a large black lump, constantly moving and changing shape and size quickly. Some say it looks like a ghostly shroud or a large black cotton ball. Those unfortunate enough to see this demon run the risk of going insane. It tries to hypnotize and paralyze its victims. When it attacks, it will suddenly rush toward the unwary, encircle him, and suffocate him. The next morning, the victim is found dead alongside of the road. Other times, it will transform into a woman. She will appear wearing a black cloak with long, messy hair. She will float along without her feet touching the ground. People say she rarely appears in human form, but when she does, it is considered a death omen. It will mean that you or someone you know is going to die. People of New Mexico refuse to talk about it and simply respond, "A casa mala." It's an evil thing. In 1692, Domingo de Luna was granted land by the King of Spain that became known as Los Lunas, New Mexico. A few years later, Don Pedro Otero came under similar circumstances. Over the years, both families grew their fortunes, becoming very powerful, and they were involved in the politics. In the late 1800s, the families became known as the Luna-Otero dynasty through the marriages of Solomon Luna and Adelaida Otero and Manuel A. Otero to Eloisa Luna. When the Santa Fe Railroad wanted the right-of-way through the Luna property, which went directly through the hacienda, they agreed to build a new home for the family to their exact specifications. Over the years, the mansion changed hands many times before it was purchased and turned into a fine restaurant in the 1970s. It was then the ghost of Josefina Otero began to appear, dressed in 1920s-style clothing. She is usually seen in the former two bedrooms on the second floor, in the attic storeroom, and at the top of the steps leading to the second floor. At the top of the stairs sits an old rocking chair, which Josefina has been reported to be seen sitting and rocking slowly. Sometimes, when an employee approaches the apparition, she simply disappears. Most often, she is seen walking up and down the stairs. Another popular spirit is said to be the former groundskeeper named Cruz. He is often seen on the main level and is reported to be very friendly with women and children. He is also reported to like to play practical jokes on the employees and patrons. One occasion, he was seen sitting on a sofa, dressed in vintage clothing. Reports from a waitress say she saw him relaxing patiently, and when she asked another staff member why he hadn't been served yet, the staff member responded, "What man?" And when the waitress looked again, Cruz was not there. Today, staff claim other spirits also roam this historical mansion, making it one of the most haunted places in New Mexico. Dawson, New Mexico doesn't exist today because the town was abandoned after 2 major disasters. The only thing left is the town's cemetery. Dawson thrived in the late 1800s, but tragedy struck in 1913 when a mine explosion claimed the lives of 300 miners. 10 years later, another explosion took the lives of another 123 men. The company then closed the mine and the town became a ghost town. Visitors to the cemetery have reported seeing and hearing all kinds of strange activity. Some have reported seeing strange lights bobbing around the cemetery, which many believe to be the headlights of the ghostly miners' helmets. There have also been reports of disembodied voices and moans after dark. People have also reported ghostly figures walking around that at first appear as visitors to the graves, but disappear if approached. The legend of Lalorna has been a part of the Hispanic culture in the Southwest since the days of the conquistadors. She is usually described as a tall, thin spirit with natural beauty, long flowing black hair, and wearing a white dress. According to legends, she roams the rivers and creeks at night, searching for children to drag screaming to a watery grave. Many people believe Lalorna to be the spirit of a doomed mother who drowned her children and now spends eternity searching for them in the rivers and lakes. Lalorna, christened Maria, is said to have been a peasant girl whose beauty captured both rich and poor men of the area. She spent her days in her humble surroundings, but at night she would put on her best white dress and seek the attention from the men at the local dances. Legends say that she had 2 young boys she would often leave at home alone while cavorting with the gentlemen in the evenings. One day her children were found drowned in the river. Some people say they were drowned from her neglect, but others say they died by her hand. Another legend says Lalorna was a caring woman who married a wealthy man. After giving him 2 sons, her husband returned to a life of womanizing and alcohol, often leaving her for months at a time, only returning to see the children. This devastated Maria, and she started to resent her children. One evening, while out for a walk with her boys, her husband came by carriage to speak with them, ignoring Maria. After he left, Maria went into a terrible rage. Seizing her children, she threw them into the river. After they disappeared, she realized what she had did and tried to save them, but it was too late. Maria, in her inconsolable grief, ran down the street screaming and wailing. She mourned her children both day and night, not eating, and would walk along the river in her white dress, searching for her boys. Eventually, her dress became dirty and torn, and she grew thinner and thinner until she looked like a walking skeleton, finally dying on the riverbank. Not long after her death, Lalorna's restless spirit began walking the banks of the Santa Fe River. Her weeping and wailing became a curse of the night, and people began to be afraid to go out after dark. She was said to be seen drifting between the trees on the shoreline or floating on the water in her white gown spread out upon the water. Some reported to see her walking the riverbank crying. Parents and other adults would warn their children not to go out after dark because Lalorna will snatch them, throwing them to their deaths in the water. Lalorna's apparition is said to act without hesitation or mercy. Some legend says she kills indiscriminately, taking men, women, and children, whoever is foolish enough to get close to her. Others say that she is very barbaric and only kills children, dragging them, screaming, into a watery grave. Originally a private mansion, La Posada Hotel was built in 1882 by Abraham Staab for his wife Julia and their 6 children. They are a wealthy, generous family, and they seem to be living a happy, successful life. However, after Julia's 7th child passed away right after birth, she became depressed and started to isolate herself. After a few more unsuccessful pregnancies, she finally locked herself in her room and refused to eat. Julia died in 1896 at the age of 52, but there are some unanswered questions regarding her death. Some people believe she was murdered, while others say it was suicide. Regardless of how she died, Julia is said to have loved her beautiful home and is reported to still walk the halls. Julia's apparition has been reported throughout the hotel. Guests who have stayed in her room reported hearing the bathtub running in the middle of the night. There are also reports of water in the hotel turning on and off with no logical explanation. Disembodied voices and glasses flying off the shelf have also been reported. Julia is said to be a gentle spirit and no one wants to get rid of her. But don't worry about her getting lonely, though. There are rumors of another spirit, an old Native American who died sometime around 1096 to keep her company. In Santa Fe, there are many spirits, some anonymous, others known by name. The cigar-smoking Sister George is reported to haunt the inn and spa at Laredo. This contemporary ghost, who died in 1976, was a member of the Order of the Sisters of Laredo and taught at the Laredo Academy, a Catholic girls' school. Sister George passed away in El Paso, but apparently made her way back to Santa Fe. The first reports of her presence started in the late 1970s. Owners of the Three Sisters Boutique at the location of the former school reported that every morning there was an extra $10 bill in the cash drawer. There have also been reports of a levitating rack of clothing, lights turning on and off by themselves, as well as the smell of cigar smoke. Sister George is also reported to like to play with the phones and the electronics. The most ancient of all haunted locations in New Mexico, the Urraca Mesa, is a mythological location for the Hopi Andina. The stories of evil were passed down orally by the ancient Anazi. The Hopi Andina believe that the Urraca Mesa is a gateway between our world and the underworld of hell. Tribes throughout the years have erected cat totems to guard the gate. Translated, the name Urraca means magpie in Anazi. It is believed magpie has the power to call out names to inform of an upcoming horrific event. When a series of unfortunate events started occurring to the ancient Navajo, they investigated and the shamans traced the calls to the Urraca Mesa. The odd aspects of the Urraca Mesa make it considered a haunted location. Try using a compass here. It won't work properly. According to legends, the cat totems have been slowly disappearing over the years. Once they are all gone, the gateway to hell will open up for the demons to walk freely in our world. While it was in operation, the old New Mexico State Penitentiary housed some of the worst criminals in New Mexico. There have also been several riots, with the most horrific of them taking place on February 2nd and 3rd of 1980. It is considered one of the most violent prison riots in American history. 12 guards were taken hostage, and inmates took complete control of the prison. 33 inmates were killed by other prisoners, with some being tortured and mutilated because of previously acting as informants to the prison authorities. There are still hatchet marks remaining from the decapitations. Other prisoners were dismembered, and more than 200 inmates were injured. After 36 hours, police finally regained control, but it was too late for many of the inmates. Surprisingly, none of the guards that were taken hostage were killed, but they did suffer serious injuries from the beatings and rapes. After the riot, the penitentiary closed down. Today, the old building has been repurposed. Parts of it are used to store movie props, and the rest of the building has remained empty, but has been used in films. Accounts of the hauntings started in 1981, and they still continue today. The most notable report is the observance of a human-shaped shadow. Unexplainable noises have been reported, including cell doors slamming shut. The funny thing is, the cell doors operated with electricity, which has since been turned off, and can only be closed by a hand crank wheel, which is so rusty it is almost impossible to use. There have also been many reports from cell block 3 and 4, the tool room, and the laundry room. These hotspots are said to have the most impressive spectral occurrences. At the Foothills at the end of Menal Boulevard in Albuquerque, there was once an old man who lived in the cave at the top of the hills. Legends say that he would bring prostitutes back there and kill them. People who have visited the Foothills have reported hearing screams, footsteps, and what sounds like someone being dragged. There have also been reports of a phantom old man walking and the swinging of a lantern by unseen hands. Built in 1783 by Salvador Armijo, the Casa Asina is a private event venue for the Hotel Albuquerque and is on the official National Registry of Historical Places. The building is more than 2 centuries old and is reported to be haunted by many ghosts from the past. In the Armijo room, there are reports of a woman in a white dress who orders meals for guests before disappearing. There's also a spirit in that room that likes to play the piano in the early morning hours. The lady in white has also appeared to diners in the old wine press room, where silverware is reported to move on its own. In the Saracina room, there are reports of a ghost woman crying, which is usually accompanied by a whiff of perfume. In the adjacent Chicone room, there were reports of a man in a suit seen either sitting or standing behind people in a mirror, but when they turn around, he's gone. In the Zamora room, there is a pleasant spirit of a woman reported sitting with visitors and just fading away at the end of a meal. There have also been reports of a cowboy seen standing in the door of the bar of the Maria Teresa restaurant. Disembodied voices and furniture moving by itself happen in the back room. Even the boardroom is said to be haunted by an apparition dressed in ancient clothing who disappears when approached.